Get ready for the dictation. Start. Mr. Chairman, sir, since we cannot achieve good objectives with bad tools, and therefore for reprimanding for corruption, the law has been made stringent, and I am glad that most of the honorable members have endorsed it. At the same time, sufficient care has also been taken to ensure certain safeguards so that the genuine initiative of a performing officer does not get curtailed, intimidated, or killed. Therefore, before I go to the specifics of it, living up to this commitment of this government and this objective, we have tried to bring in certain provisions, broadly speaking, timely permission, timely prosecution within a certain span, so that the officer also does not have to go on for a prolonged ordeal, as has been a common refrain in the society, that the cases are registered and the officer gets superannuated and sometimes even passes away, and then the purpose which was envisaged is not served. At the same time, there has to be no compromise as far as the issue of bribery is concerned. Therefore, we have, as was introduced by the earlier government itself, the concept of effective action against the active briber or bribe giving, and therefore while following this objective of ensuring stringent measures against corruption, simultaneously a balance has sought to be taken to ensure a work-friendly environment for an officer or a government servant, where he can perform to the best of his ability and potential. As I was saying a few moments ago, this process will carry on till we evolve to that level. Had it not been so, Mr. Chairman, sir, even after the Prevention of Corruption Act, which was brought in 1988 by the other government, in all its wisdom, there was still a thought that there was a need to have CAT, the Central Administrative Tribunal, which came in 1985 because the cases were plenty and the disposal was sought to be made more convenient. In the year 2003, we had the CVC. In 2005, we came with RTI, and in 2014, somewhere around in January or February, the Lokpal Act was brought in. So I agree with what some of the honorable members, even from the other side, have said, that the need to bring in more and more laws sometimes possibly arises because the earlier laws were not found to be adequate on having expected implementation. But then this is a phenomenon not only confined to the government or the administration, this is a larger phenomenon. With regard to the contribution of the present government, there were certain observations made by the opposition members also, and rightly so, because we have to be politically correct also while we speak to each other, though we all are very constructively cooperative. But I would take your leave to just say that to my mind, as far as corruption or the crusade against corruption is concerned, one contribution of this government is that this government has succeeded in restoring the faith of the people in the credibility of its rulers. If that was not so, the government would not have had the courage as well as the conviction to bring in difficult decisions like demonetization or GST, which usually do not fit into the electoral wisdom and are not compatible. But the government had the conviction and had the courage, and people also appreciated that. Sir, a reference was made to terror funding having been reduced after these measures, and I think today, when we live in evidence-based era where everything is spoken in terms of figures and statistics, there can be no better and latest figure than the 44% increase in the advance income tax deposits by the individual taxpayers recorded in the first quarter of this year, which is apparently one of the consequences and positive outcomes of these measures. Sir, economic measures were referred to, but I think one aspect which did not come into discussion neither from that side nor from this side is that most of the economic measures brought in by this government, namely Ujjwala Jan Dhan and others, were not mere economic reforms, but if you see from a wider perspective, they were also social reforms, they were civilizational reforms, and they were also reforms in our economic behavior. And maybe they enabled us from giving up the habit of being tax evaders to becoming taxpayers, and possibly that has increased. I am not trying to find fault with this government or that government, but these things are part of continuous process and cumulative outcome. But this government has substantially succeeded in contributing to this. Sir, in a nutshell, I am saying that the economic reforms have gone beyond the realms of economics and have brought in a behavioral change as well, which is something very new to the realms of economics. So I think in our endeavor to move collectively in that direction, you would agree with me that we are seeking to become as much incorruptible as possible by trying to seek even a change in our economic behavior, which is not confined only to economics per se. Stop.